Welcome to the weekly shir, the Zera Shimshon. This is Parshas Korach, and it's Friday, Aleph, the Rosh Chodesh of Tammuz, Tafshin Pei Aleph. And we're going to do a piece here on Tess in the Zera Shimshon of Parshas Korach. If you want to read along, so fine. It says, Al Hai, Amrin and Biyushami, the Gemara Peah, Perik Aleph, Halacha Aleph. It says, Mutter loimer lashon hara al baalei machlekes. It's permitted to say lashon hara on people that are in an argument. That's interesting. Halacha. Why? Why should do an avera to try to eradicate another avera? Doesn't make sense, right? So, here's the deal. Tzorich tam. Lama kach? V'ki bishvil shehu choyta yiyah muter lanu la'asos iser v'lesaper lashon hara. Just because somebody's doing a prohibition, leitia karach ka'adasa, not to be a baal machlekes, so it's permitted to say another iser deraisa. Why does that make any sense? Okay. So, im hamisaper lashon hara anshay chamor yoser mishleish averos avoid the zara gila ras and shvichas damim. So if he's speaking lashon hara, it's worse than the other three averos that in the Torah, which is the worst three averos. Lashon hara is worse than avodah zara, or doing idol worship. Gilui arayos, which is incest, and shvichas damim, murder. How can that be? So, it appears to, I can give an answer. That somebody who speaks lashon hara removes the shechina from up and makes it disappear up above. Same thing happened to David HaMelech when he saw what the Doeg Adaimi was speaking lashon hara and about the Zifim, and the Zifim speaking lashon hara about David. He said, Omar Royim Ruma ala Shomayim Kvedecha. May the Shechina may be elevated up above. In other words, he meant it's disappearing from us. Klaimar, Silek Shechinascha, Salek Shechinascha mi beinei. Remove the Shechina from us. She'ena Shechina Shora mitach Sina. The Shechina doesn't rest because of hatred and Ava and hate, and that's a different type of hatred. You have to discuss what the difference between Sina and Ava is, okay? It's like grumpiness, right? Kaas and anger, with tachros and competition. In other words, a bad kind of competition. So the Shechina can be shayra because of peace and love. Oyo v'shezek kvar hubal machlekes ein hashchina imoim. Since this person is a argumentative person, he's causing trouble, so the Shechina is not with him anyway. So therefore, it's mutter lashon hara alav. So it's permitted to say lashon hara about this person. Shleisha lashon hara zeh lo yigrem silo kashchina. This lashon hara will not cause the removal of the Shechina from us. Shekvar soluka oimedis. Because it's already, the person that's about machlekes has already removed the Shechina. But we're not yet fulfilling our obligations here. Look at the Shechina was removed from him. But what about us? We still have the Shechina. So when we speak lashon hara, it's removing the Shechina from us. So why do we do that? Why would we want to do that? So why should we allow to speak about this other person who is a baal machlekes, or is an argumentative person, when we've now removed the Shechina from ourselves? So that makes it worse. The mishum da amina b'yoshan and peah azhar lelashon hara mimnayin Where do I know the warning from about Lashon Hara? It says, not to go peddling stories amongst their people. And that's when he says, every time it says Ba'amecha means he's keeping the Torah and mitzvahs like you, or like us, okay? But Davka, somebody's keeping the Torah and mitzvahs. It's prohibited to speak Lashon Hara love. But somebody who's not behaving like a Jew should behave and keeping the 613 mitzvahs, it's permitted to speak Lashon Hara about him. It's not in that category. It says, "V'nasi be'amcha le'sor." V'nasi, the priest, not the priest, but the president amongst your people, in other words, the leader, well, you should not curse. Okay, but it says there, be'amcha, in amongst your nation. In other words, if he's behaving like a Jew with fulfilling all the commandments, but he's Zera, forget it. He's a Baal Machlekes, forget it. He doesn't come in that category. So why dafka are we allowed to speak Lashon Hara about a person that's argumentative when any of the, if he's not keeping any of the other mitzvahs, if a shat nefesh, he's not keeping avodah zarah like Achav, right? And Yizervel. So what's wrong with speaking Lashon Hara about them? Yesh l'taretz ha'isur shel Lashon Hara haynu mipnei shehut matel sina o machlokes bein ha'ovim v'nikra soinei shalom. The reason why we're allowed to speak Lashon Hara on this person that's argumentative is because he's causing hatred and arguments between people who like each other. And that's called, he's placing hatred instead of he hates peace, he hates perfection. Ve'imhu ba'al machlokes kvar hu soinei shalom. And if he's already a machlokes, he loves to argue with everybody and everything. So he already hates peace. Ve'im kein eino roi le'shev b'shalom. He is not fitting to sit in peace. The Chsiv, it says, Ve'ein shalom omar Hashem l'rashai. There's no peace to the, Hashem says, for the wicked. V'lechein kedei shelo yishiv b'shalva. In order that he shouldn't be sitting in tranquility. So it says, Mutar leimer Lashon Hara alav kedei sheyisna'u. It says, permitted to speak about him Lashon Hara in order that they should hate him. People keeping the Torah mitzvahs should hate this person. And the way that people are measured, they should also be measured. This all should be in the merit. We've heard some people that didn't have children for a long time. So we're going to mention the names. Michal Miriam Bas Malka, Elchanan Bunim Bas Yosefa. So we can hopefully Bez Hashem, that couple will be zeicha to have a Zera Shel Kayama, as after the Zera Shimshon. Okay, the segula here is one of my relatives wasn't feeling well. And since the pain was so intense, he paid a visit to the local clinic and described his symptoms to the doctor. The doctor performed a number of rudimentary tests and told the patient he had to leave immediately for the hospital. You need to go to the hospital right now. I'm afraid you're about to have a stroke. Whoa. The doctor's diagnosis was exactly on target, and the patient suffered a stroke on the way to the hospital. Upon his arrival, he was whisked into surgery for a grueling operation. When it was done, the patient was left in an induced coma. The story occurred on a Sunday. On Tuesday, the doctors decided to try and bring him out of the coma. They were unsure whether they'd get any response from the man at all. The question was how badly his brain had been affected by the trauma he had experienced a few days earlier. Family members stood around the patient's bed filled with anxiety. The first time the doctors tried to bring him out of the coma, they were unsuccessful, and he didn't respond at all. No movement, nothing to show that he was aware of anything. They tried again a few hours later. Again, it didn't work, and the patient didn't respond. The medical team decided to keep him in the coma for a while longer. Meanwhile, you can imagine how worried the family was as they waited to see whether the stroke had harmed him beyond all help, or whether he'd be able to return to himself. One of the man's sons was familiar with the segula of the Zera Shimshon. He decided to take action and began learning the sefer next to the patient's hospital bed. After all, didn't the Zera Shimshon write, "You shall see children and children's children like the olive shoots around your table"? Quote from our pasuk. He, the son, desperately wanted his father to be able to give them. He, the son, desperately wanted his father to return to them so that he could see his children sitting around his table. He learned for an hour, interrupted. At that point, the doctors arrived in the room to see how the patient was doing, and the son watched as the medical team began testing his father to see if the damage was irreversible or there was any chance of recovery. To the surprise of all in attendance, the patient responded to what the doctors were doing. Not only did the patient finally open his eyes, but he even recognized his family members, and it wasn't long before he was out of danger and on the road to full recovery. Yes, a full recovery after suffering a terrible stroke, waking from a deep coma. It was just as the Zera Shimshon had written so many years before in the introduction to his legendary Torah work. You shall see children sitting around your table.